Now, for reaction to all of it, former acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, thank you for being with us. I want to start with the breaking news on this Justice Department memo. What does that mean that it has to be released? Does it matter, Matthew?
Yeah, it's good to be with you tonight, Brian. Well, it matters in just the context that we find ourselves, which is that Donald Trump continues to be chased and harassed by the Department of Justice. I mean, this is going to be a memo that was generated by the prosecution team that did the Mueller investigation that came up with a 400-plus page report that found that there was no collusion with the Russian government and alleged that, sort of things that would never be charged in a court of law, were somehow obstructions of justice. And so that's going to be a memo that analyzes whether or not they should charge and prosecute. Obviously, they declined to do that and did not recommend that the Department of Justice pursue those charges. It's more logs on the fire. And, someday we'll be past this. But, right now it just seems to be that, Donald Trump continues to be in the news because of DOJ's desire to get him.
Well, let's talk about another log on that fire. You've got the affidavit. A judge has now said that's got to be released in redacted form. You talk about what that's going to look like. I'm envisioning pages of black lines that tell us basically nothing about what is going on when it comes to that raid at Mar-a-Lago. What do you expect to see?
Well, I think it's going to look a lot like an Austin Kleon poem where, he blacks out newspapers to make a statement or a poem. And I think it's going to be a lot like that. The interesting give and take is going to be between the judge and the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, if they overreach, the judge is going to push back. He ultimately has the decision to make. But remember, this is a magistrate judge. And so the appeal goes to the district court judge and then to the Court of Appeals. And if the Supreme Court wants to take it, they would then take it on. And so it could be a while before we see anything from this affidavit.
It just sounds like delay. It just sounds like you're not going to get transparency. It is going to go on forever if all these courts have to get involved in it. And it kind of gets to this question that Senator Chuck Grassley raised. I want you to listen to him on the different treatment that Democrats and Republicans get from the FBI. Listen.
There's evidence of the handle one way for Democrats and another thing for Republicans. And I think I've proven some political bias in regard to Hunter Biden and Trump in the FBI. So I think full transparency is what's really called for in this very extraordinary situation.
That's Senator Grassley's view, Matthew. But if you look at polls and how Americans are thinking about the FBI right now, it's pretty interesting. 44% of Americans believe the FBI is doing a good or excellent job compared to 57% 2 years ago. And of course, there's a party split. 41% of Democrats think the FBI is doing a good job. Only 26% of Republicans. You can't escape this question that there's bias here. How damaging is that to public trust in this institution?
Yeah. Well, I agree with my home state Senator Chuck Grassley. And there appears to be, and again, appearance becomes reality, is that there's a two-tiered system of justice where Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, and others go without this type of harassment and continuing investigation, and yet Donald Trump and others, seem to be given the full extent of what's permitted under the law, and then some. So in this case, obviously, we've had 3 years of the Hunter Biden laptop. First, we were told by the Department of Justice off the record that it was Russian disinformation. 50 intel officials from previous administrations agreed with them to that. And then we find that it's actually his real laptop and it has evidence of real federal crimes being committed, but no search warrants executed, no charges are brought, and it does not even appear that a grand jury is investigating it.
Transparency and even-handedness are the keys to legitimacy for somebody like the FBI. It just doesn't feel like we're getting it right now. Matthew Whitaker, we always appreciate your perspective. Thanks for being with us.
Good to see you, Brian. Thank you.
Well, the media